Hey guys, it's Danny again. So this is the third video of week 8 where we're talking about HTML and CSS. So in this video we're going to be doing a quick demo using glitch.com, which is a online programming editor. So this is the website. You can go to glitch.com or glitch.me, I think is the old one. They've recently updated to glitch.com. And basically what we're going to do is create an account. So we're going to sign in. I'm going to sign in with my Google account. And this is your kind of projects area. So this is the area where all of your programming projects, all your websites are going to live once you've created them. So we're going to just start from scratch. We're going to create a new project. So at the top, which says new project, we're going to click on that. And there's a couple of options. We're just going to do the very basic hello web page option, which is just a basic HTML and CSS website. Allows you to start from a template that's already been started for you and created for you. So let's click on that. So on the left-hand side, this is your root directory, your file structure. And then on the right-hand side is your programming area. So right now this is in the README file, which we don't really need to bother with. All we really care about today is the index file, index.html, which is the main HTML file, and then the style.css, which is the CSS styling file. The other thing that we're going to be using is the assets. So these are any images or videos or any sort of digital assets that you want to display on your website, get uploaded here. So we're going to first go to the index.html page, and I'm just going to start from scratch. So let's just select all and delete that. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the CSS. So I'm going to start from scratch here and delete that. And in our HTML index.html file, we're going to just start typing our HTML. So one good thing about this platform is that it's kind of auto populates your close tag once you create your open tag. So I just typed in HTML and then it gave me my close tag automatically. So the next thing we want to do is create our head. So this is where we're going to pass in all of the like title information or links to our CSS. You could also pass in like metadata for search engine optimization in there. But basically all of that, the head is used for anything that doesn't get rendered in the browser window itself. So the next thing is the body. The body is everything that gets rendered on the web browser window goes into the body tags. So the first thing we're going to do is let's create a title in our head. I'm going to create a website that's based off of a trip I took my daughter to at the train museum up here in Connecticut. So I'm going to call this, I don't know, train museum website. And then the next thing I want to do is link my CSS document, which is the style.css file, to my HTML document. So that also goes in the head, and I'm going to use a link tag, href equals, and then where that file lives, which is in the same folder. So we just have to reference the name of the CSS file. And we have to designate the type, which is text CSS. Oops. And we have to define real as being style sheet. Okay, cool. So the next thing I want to do is let's create a header and a main section and a footer section. So with the latest HTML version of HTML, there are a few tags, few new tags. One's called header. Another is called main. And then another is called footer. So we're going to separate our website with a header at the top, our main content area in the middle, and then a footer at the bottom. Okay, so in header, let's create I'm going to create another box, a div for, so basically we could have like a background color that goes the full width of the browser for both all the header, the main, and the footer. But I don't want my content to go the full width of the browser. I want it to be a maximum of like, let's say 900 pixels. So I'm going to create a box inside of the header, a box inside of the main, and a box inside of the footer using a div and giving them an ID for each section. So let's do the header first. We're going to do a div, give it an ID equal to header container. And then we're going to do the same thing for main. Add a div, ID equals main container. Okay. Then let's do the same thing for our footer. ID equals footer container. Okay, cool. So we have our header, our footer, our main, and our footer all set up. So now we can put content inside of those boxes, but they're nicely separated by a header, main area, and then a footer area. So in our header, let's pass in an H1, and let's give this a title. Let's call it. So so I went to the train museum with my daughter, and I took pictures of all the type on all the old trains. So let's call this lettering of trains long past. Okay. And just a reminder, HTML ignores all white space. I just like having all this on one line personally, just for cleanliness. But another great thing about Glitch is that if for some reason like I deleted all this and I wanted it to be nicely formatted, there's a button at the top that says format this file. If you click that, then everything will be formatted in a nice, easy to navigate and easy to read way. Okay, so next I am going to go into our main container. And let's just add a subhead. Let's do an H2. And let's just do trains. And below that, let's add a paragraph. We could write in anything we want. Let me just get some lorem ipsum. Actually, I like using bacon ipsum personally. No offense to anyone who doesn't eat bacon out there, but I'm a fan. So if you go to this site, you can get some lorem ipsum that is based off of all things pork. So I'm just gonna copy and paste that paragraph in there. Okay, that looks weird, so I'm gonna format this file. Okay, cool. So much cleaner. All right, so everything in Glitch also autosaves, which is nice. At the top left, there is a project name. You could change that to something else. I'm going to change it to Trains Lettering Website. website. Okay. And you can also go to, at the top, show. And then you could show what the website is going to look like, or what it currently looks like in a new window, or you could show it next to your code as well. I'm going to open it up in a new window. Cool. So this is what we have so far. Doesn't look all that glamorous yet. We have a header at the top, subhead, and paragraph. So why don't we add some CSS styling to this next? So we already linked our CSS file at the top, but if we go to style.css, there's nothing in there. So we have no styles being assigned to any of the HTML elements. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is go to body, and for some reason, default, the body has, I think, a margin or a padding. So I always like to do margin 0 pixels and padding 0 pixels. Fonts, let's do a font family of Arial. And then sans serif. Okay. And then let's go back to our website and check it out. Okay, so the typeface changed. We have no more margin or padding around the body. And the text is Arial or sans serif. Let's create some styles for our header. Let's give that a width of 100%, so that's the full width. And I am going to also give this a background color so we can see what's going on. Let's just do red. And I'm going to do the same thing for the main container. Width of 100%. Background color is green. And then footer, let's do width of 100% again. And the background color of blue. Okay, I'm doing this just so we can see that something is being updated. Great. So we have our text at the top and our main area is green. I think we're missing the footer. Okay, let's go back to index. Okay, footer is there, but has no content. So let's add a P to footer as well. And I don't know, let's just say, okay, copyright, Danne Woo, 2020. That should be good for now. Okay, great. So we have our header, our main content area, and our footer. So we have some gaps in here. That's just because of default margins and paddings, but we'll fix that in a little bit. Why don't we actually, I'm gonna get a different typeface. So instead of doing, for font family, for body, instead of doing Arial, there are Google fonts that we can connect to our CSS, which gives us a lot more customization when it comes to the type of font we want to use in our design. So I'm going to go to Google Fonts. I'm just going to Google Fonts. Okay, so I'm going to go to Google Fonts and then find a font I like. I like this one, so let's open that one up. And then if you go to select font, then click the bottom is like your shopping cart. You can see all the fonts that you selected. I'm going to customize, and there are different fonts in this family that we could choose. Right now just regular is selected, but I'm going to do regular, let's do light and bold. It also tells you if you select too many, that sometimes the load time can be really slow. So this is a moderate load time, this is fine. Then when we click on embed, there's two options, standard and import. I'm going to do the import option. And we just need to get this import code here. And we just need to pass this into our CSS. So we don't need the style, open and close style. We just need the @import and then the URL. Copy that. Go back to our CSS. And at the top, I'm going to paste that into our CSS. So this is basically linking that font to our website as well. If we go back to Google Fonts, it shows us how we could actually use it. So this is the font family, and this is how we reference that font, just by naming it. Okay, I'm going to copy that, go back, and then I'm going to replace the font family that I have in body with Montserrat. So if we go back to our website, reload, then we could see that the typeface changed from Arial to Montserrat everywhere. Let's say I want to change the weight though in header. So let's say font weight. So with this, you could pass in a numerical value that's divisible by 100. Or you can pass in bold or certain text. But because Montserrat, this Google font family is using 300, 400, and 700 for different weights, we're just going to use the same. So for the header, let's use 700. Oops. For main, let's do font weight of, let's do 300. And then for footer, let's do font weight of 400. Okay, let's go back and see how that looks. Cool. So we got a bold for the header. The main section is going to be a light, and then the footer is going to be like a normal or regular. Okay, great. Looks good so far. Let's do text align too. Text align center for the header. Okay, so the text is center aligned for the header and everything else is left aligned since that's the default. Why don't we center align the content here so it's not all flush left and then also going the full width of the browser window. So we already created our divs with an ID for header container, main container, and footer container. So these could be like our inner boxes for header, main, and footer. So basically what we could do is say, okay, header, main, and footer, that's going to be 100% width. So it's going to go the full width of the browser. But the containers on the interior of header, main, and footer, the header container, main container, and footer container, we can make a max width of like 900 pixels or something, and then center align that. Okay. So let's go back down to our CSS, and then we're gonna apply some styles to header container. You could also string these together, so you just do a comma if we want to do the same styles. Main container and footer container. Okay, so in here we are going to add a positioning and set that to a relative. We are going to give this a max width of 900 pixels. We want to center align these containers, so to do that you have to set margin to be equal to auto on the left and right sides. So we're going to do margin 0 pix because we don't want to have any margin on the top or bottom. So 0 pix auto, 0 pix auto. And then we're going to do padding, just so there's some padding around everything. 10 pixels, And then I like to do overflow auto for any content that is floating to the left. Sometimes that breaks out of the container if you don't have overflow set to auto. Okay. So let's go back to the page, and cool, looks good. So we have our background colors still being full width, but our interior boxes are 900 pixels wide and are center aligned. So now if I was to rescale this window down, everything would still be in the center, no matter what the width of the browser window is. Okay, so why don't we play around with some images next? So let's go to our assets, and I'm going to upload some images. So I have, so these images can be found on our class website if you want to download these and play around with these exact images that I'm using. But these are some pictures that I took while at this train museum of the different letter forms and typography on the trains that have obviously been weathered over time. So I'm going to upload these images. Unfortunately, I think you have to do it individually. That's one. Let me try and do multiple. Yeah, you have to do it one at a time. Okay. All right, so we have some images here. So if you click on each one of these, you'll see that it gives you a link to where this image lives. So basically what we want to do is copy one of these, at least one of them, for now. And let's go back to our index file. And underneath our paragraph in the main section, I'm going to add an image and set that source equal to that URL. So if we go back to the website, then we have an image here. We have some scrolling issues though, so that we're going to fix in a second. Okay, so the image is too big, so we basically have to change the dimensions of the image to fit within the width of our container. So let's go back to our CSS, and I'm gonna create CSS for large images and CSS for small images. So if we do image.large, we'll apply the large class to our large image, and then say I want the width to be 100%. And then I'm going to do another one for image.small, another class called small, and do this width. I'm going to put this in 3 columns, so I'm going to make this 33.333%. Okay. Then I'm also going to apply some styles to all images, whether they are large or small. I'm going to give this a margin of 0 pix, padding of 0 pix, and float. I'm going to float these to the left. So let's go back to our HTML, and we're going to apply that class that we created, and let's apply the large image class to this. Great. So now we resize that large image to be the full width of the container, which is 100% of the container. So let's add a couple more images. And I'm going to make these small. So I'm just copying and pasting. So if we go back, we could see there's a grid of images below this that are small. And we're basically creating a 3-column grid. So we can go back into our assets and go in here and just copy the URL to where those images live. So it's not repeating the same image over and over again. Okay. Okay, let's go back. Cool. So now we have our grid, our large image at the top, and then a grid of images below. All right, so why don't we go in and change the background colors, since this red, green, and blue is not all that beautiful. So let's go, let's do a background image for the header. So I'm going to upload another image called traintracks.png, and this is basically a train track graphic that doesn't have a background. It's transparent. So let's upload that, and we could use that as a background image for our header. Okay, if we go to header, then let's create a background image URL, and then inside the brackets, parentheses, we want to pass in where that image lives. So we have to go back to our assets and then copy that link, go back to our CSS, and then paste that link into the URL area. And then we have to end it with a semicolon, just like always. Okay, so if we go back, okay, so it's showing up, but it's not all that nice. So why don't we play around with it a little bit more? So let's do background repeat, and we just want to repeat on the x-axis. Let's do background size. We want to resize this so it's not so big. Let's do 60 pixels. And let's do background position. And let's make it so it's stuck to the bottom of the container. Okay. All right. We're getting there. Okay, so it's still a little not in the best location, so let's play around with it a little bit more. Okay, why don't we add some margin to the bottom of this header? So hopefully that will push all the train tracks down. So if we go to our CSS, let's say, okay, header container H1. So the H1 in the header container, let's give it a margin bottom of, let's say, 50 pixels. Okay, let's see if that worked. Huh, still stuck at the top for some reason. Okay, let's see. We'll figure out what's going on with that in a little bit. Why don't we change just the background colors on everything? So let's change the background color for the header. I'm gonna make it a like orangey color. So this is DBA 81D. So it's an orangey color at the top. So another way to find that is just Googling color picker. And you can kind of use the color picker to find the color that you want. And then there's a hex value at the bottom. It also gives you the RGB, CMYK, HSV, and HSL values. So this is a great resource to figure out what colors you want to use and figure out what hex value that color should be. Okay, so we got the color there. Let's change the color for the main to be C2. That is basically just gray. And then let's do the color, background color for footer to be a black background. And let's do color for the text to be white. Okay, let's go back and check it out. Okay, that looks better, all right? Okay. Let's see what's going on the header. Well, let's do this then. Okay, so for some reason the train tracks at the top aren't going to the bottom. So we're gonna skip that and figure out what's going on with that later. So instead of doing margin on the bottom for the header, I'm doing margin top. So basically just pushing it down a little bit. Okay. So the next thing I want to do is let's add some links to the bottom of our footer. So let's add a link for, I'm going to add one to my website and a link to my Instagram account. So we're going to add an A tag, href equals, and we have to make sure that the end tag is at the end of website. And I'm going to type in the URL for my website, http://dannewoo.com. And then we're also going to say there's another attribute called target, and you could say target is equal to underscore blank. And that basically just means that it's going to open up in a new tab or a new window. So we could do the same thing for the Instagram, href equals. And then in href, we're going to pass in https://www.instagram.com/DannyWoo. Let's reformat this. And then target is going to be equal to underscore blank again. Okay, let's go back to the website. Cool. All right, so the style on the hovers isn't ideal, so why don't we go to our CSS and change that so it's white and only the underline shows up when we hover over it. Okay, so let's go back to our CSS. And you can put this anywhere. I'm going to put it at the bottom. Just reference the footer first and then the A inside the footer. And let's say the color is going to be white on load. And text decoration is none. So we don't want to have a underline on load. Then we could do another style for the hover state. So remember when you have a tag and then a colon, you can say hover or active. You can, and then apply styles to that state. So for hover, we're going to do a text decoration again and say underline. So when you hover over it, it's going to be underlined. Okay, let's go back. Okay, the color is white, great. And then when you hover over it, it's underlined. So here's our basic website. We have background image at the top. We have our images here, our body copy and subhead here. So why don't we add an iframe? So I am going to find where this train museum is. So I went to the Danbury Train Museum. And then I'm going to go to the Google Maps on the right-hand side. Click on that. And then if you go to Share, there's an Embed a Map option. click on that, you just copy the code, and then we can go to our HTML, and let's go to the end of the last image, and then just paste it right there. And let's format this file again so everything's kind of nice and formatted here, not on one line. Another thing that you could do here is do, instead of width being 600, I'm going to do width 100%. So it fills the entire width of that container. So now if we go back and scroll down, we can see our Google map embedded on our own website. So why don't we do that exact same thing for a data visual chart? So let's go to our data visual account, log in, and I already created a chart that I'm going to embed. So if I'm going to go to my profile, and this is a chart of the 23 busiest Amtrak stations in the United States. So you can hover over each one of these and it'll show you the name and where it's located. So for web embeds on data visual, if you hover over export and then go to web embed and click on that, it's going to open up a window with some iframe code that you can just copy and paste. So let's select it, copy it, go back to our code and paste it. Let's just paste it after our Google map. So it's right here. And then I'm going to reformat. Oops, let's try it again. There we go. Reformat, so now it's nice and clean. So I do want to fix one thing. So max width of 830 pixels, you can just delete that and just stick with a width of 100%. So now that's going to go to the full width of the container that it's in. So if we go back to the website, scroll down, then you can see our data visual chart is embedded on the website as well. Cool, so that looks pretty good. Had a few hiccups there, but I think we got through it. And now we have a nicely designed, nicely laid out website looking at the typography on some old trains in Connecticut. It has a HTML iframe embed for a Google map and an iframe embed for a data visual chart that has interactivity. You can, for the map, you can zoom and kind of drag it around. And then we have our footer at the bottom that links to our website or our Instagram page, has copyright information, etc. Okay, so hopefully that was helpful. I am going to share the link to this example on our class website as well. So you can look at all the code, use whatever you want for your own projects. And feel free to write some comments for any suggestions or thoughts or questions you might have, or Slack me on the class Slack channel, or email me if you have any other questions. Okay, thanks guys.